Evening, everybody. How are you all doing? I hope you're all well. Enjoying this relatively mild November still. Got to say it's been a bit more rainy, but me and Steve were just discussing off air. And yes, Steve's back, so organised this week. It's going to be a lot smoother. But yeah, he's found some picture apparently where it was, unless I misunderstood him, there was icing around this time last year. So magic. Long may it continue. But yeah, got quite a bit to get through this week. I've actually even done some prep work, believe it or not. That is going to shock you. Trying to be as organised as we can to get the most into the time we've got this evening. So probably a bit of catch up first, as per usual. Do it now and a little bit towards the end as well. Thank you to everyone for your concerns regarding my cough and telling me to get to the doctors. It is a stomach acid problem that I have every now and again with the absolutely shocking diet that I tend to have. One way of managing all the stress. But yeah, there we go. It's getting under wraps. It's settled down a lot. If you'd have heard me when I was in Japan, you'd have thought I was on my way out, on my last legs. So there we go. Yes, right. So a few little bits and bobs. First of all, you may well have seen circulating some of the info we've released regarding the live auctions that we're starting on a Tuesday evening, 6:30. They're going to be first one starting next week. So you've been, there it is again. A lot of you guys have been asking for more interaction, more getting involved in Koi Wholesale as much as we can. Now, this is one way we're going to do it. When we did this for the Great British Koi Show last year, I think it was a big success. Everybody really enjoyed it. Even those who didn't sort of participate enjoyed it. So yeah, we thought, why not? Let's do it. So the basic principle and format behind it is every Tuesday. In fact, even now, you'll be able to see some of the fish circulating around. All the information's there. You guys can all bid on the fish yourself. Just at the end part of it, you'll be able to find a list of all the retailers that we work with. And yeah, when it comes to crunch time and sending us the info, you need to choose a dealer who'll be handling the transaction and handling the fish for you, and that's where you'll make payment and sort out delivery of the fish and all of that stuff. So yeah, we picked a really nice spread, a diverse spread, which I find important. So some fish are very reasonable starting prices, certainly for the quality, and then stepping it up and going through the gears. So there will be something for everybody every week, and then we'll mix it up. We've got some Dainichi specials planned and bits and bobs. So let's see how it goes. I'm sure we won't get it perfect first time. But yeah, we'll build on it and try and create the best experience we can for everyone. So let's see how it goes. But like I say, look out for that next Tuesday, 6:30, starting the first one. And I think if I'm right, you're right. That cough did not go down well. Skeptical enough, I think, seeing foreigners back, but never mind one that was sounded like he was coughing himself to death. So there we go. Yes, that's the one. That's where we're at. So live auctions. Let's see how it goes. But genuinely, very very diverse mix of fish, and yeah, let's have some fun with it and see where we get to. Just in case you didn't see it from last week as well, our next Grow Out event in Japan is coming together, and I'm super excited about this one. This is with Taniguchi Koi Farm. One of my absolute favorite places to go to. This is starting with a winter grow out. So the small tosai will be raised through to jumbo tosai. We'll assess the fish in April, and then there will be the option if the fish is deemed worthy, which will be upon my advice that I'll give to you. It can stay for a very small cost and stay and grow over the summer through to Nisai as well. But just in case you didn't see it last week, here is the video, guys. That's all 52 fish that are being entered. We've got his Koraku, Sankey Showa, Ginrin Showa, Golden Corn, and some Goshki in there for good measure as well. Just got all the individual pictures through yesterday. Yeah, we're just going to get them worked. And we're releasing a video with a little bit more information on Friday, I believe, on YouTube and Facebook. And then... yeah, the rest will come. Hopefully the pictures will be up by Monday at the latest. And then we're planning on this event, the actual purchasing side for the dealers, being done on the 1st of December. So there we have it with that one. Dead excited about this event. Let's say the results at Taniguchi are phenomenal. And just to sort of tie in with that a little bit, I have got a fish lined up for a bit of appreciation this evening. One that's going to be a Marmite one, but it is a golden corn that I've had in Japan, which I think has been quite an interesting development for you to see, because love them or hate them, golden corn are going nowhere. They're here to stay. And from what I've seen, growing in popularity as well. So when you've got guys like Ryuki Narita ordering the Tosai 5,000 pieces at a time, I think that about says it all, to be honest with you. So nice to see Elliot from the States tuning in live this evening. Elliot's a great guy. I actually bumped into him in Japan. He's been following us for a while, so it was nice to see him there with his dealer. And hopefully, seems a great guy. Hopefully, he's going to help us, try and get the mag sort of out there in the States a little bit more. So it's a market I'm keen to help as much as possible. From what I've seen, I don't think it seems as advanced as it is sort of we are here in the UK, but nonetheless, I think the magazine's been providing a lot of help, and we want to get it in as many hands as possible. And on that one, to wrap up the sort of segments, many of you might know what these are. Delivery is now here. That is the box many of you will be receiving. And inside it, this thing weighs a ton. The binder. They look absolutely awesome. The one we had before was only a mock-up print, but absolute work of art then. So whether you've got the magazine or not, if you've not ordered one of these, I think they're awesome just to have to store any old crap in, to be honest, because they're cool. But that one already, that's got full 12 editions in it. You can sort of see it in there, how it sits with the Cordex in there. So there's a little bit of movement. They're, great bit of kit, looks superb. So if you've not ordered them already, there is only a small handful left now. So get on over there and see what get one ordered. So right, anyway, tonight's talk, I have got a segment planned. I've been going back through all the questions. There's a group of them clustered together, which I'm going to blitz through. Feel free to pop some questions through, but I do really want to focus on these older ones this evening, to be honest with you, so we can just sort of work through them and clear it out. I'm going to start on one topic, however, because my phone's been a bit lively this week on a certain sort of topic. And I just want to give my sort of 10 pence worth on this because, in my opinion, there's been a lot of bullshit and people, adapting the rules on this. And the topic is biosecurity. And this is just my beliefs on it. This is the sort of stuff written into my biosecurity measures plan with CFAS, all obviously approved by them. The thing with it is it's one of these like quarantine protocols. There's not a lot of enforcement or saying basically, so long as the plan is approved by CFAS and they can vary, then that's kind of what you're bound to if you're following the setup and the rules there. I think I have discussed this once way back when we started the video stuff, but here is, my take on how we do it and where all this linked. And this isn't just linked to KHV. This is one of the things that I said many all them videos back, is biosecurity is not just about that. There's a great deal of things. And the biggest thing with biosecurity is about protecting me first. You guys, the people buying my fish, all very, very, very important. But as far as I see it, I'm the one in all this. If I get something problem on the site at Koi Wholesale, I've got a shitload to lose in reputation, financially, in damages from what would be sort of destroyed. And it's just not something I want happening ever. So take every precaution. And as a result of those precautions, everybody purchasing my fish, the dealers, and then you guys get the very best protection possible anyway, because I'm taking all the best measures. So here's a few bits around biosecurity that I think are absolutely key, and some big sort of no-nos in there as well, to be honest. So first thing, this isn't just about a quarantine process of getting fish in. This is about a mindset and a way that you operate, just like with a football team and the style of play and the culture of a club being a mindset. This is exactly the same. So for me, this all starts in Japan, and it's about knowing the breeders that you're dealing with, the practices of those breeders as well. And yeah, it's vital because it's took them quite a while to catch on sometimes, to be honest. And let me just give you one example of this now. So in Japan, and this is something I'm going to loop back round to, all the breeders undergo testing 3 times a year, I believe it is now. They follow a strict guideline, as it's called, and these are the breeders that are able to export. But for me, if there's no record of testing, absolutely not interested. That's an absolute given for a start. I don't care if he's got all Japan Grand Champions for 100 quid each, going nowhere near it in the slightest. So even when it is the fish are being tested, we've then got to look at processes. Now, there's a couple of breeders, I'm not going to mention names because I'm not into that game. There's a couple of breeders who are repeat offenders now, and whether they've not had mass visible signs of outbreaks. I hope Mum's watching, still learning, you see. She knows it's the best place to come for koi information. Even if they say these have not been killer outbreaks that wipe everything out, this is the testing protocol picking up something before it's really turned into an outbreak. However, that said, these repeat offenders, one of which is now had the whole clear again, is testing actively, shipping his fish all around the world, because at this minute in time, he's been through all since the last positive test, all the protocols, fish wipeouts, clean outs, all a lot. He's breeding again, and he's had the correct amount of tests. Stephen, that's absolute crack up. I'm sure she'll love you for that. Yeah, and so on the basis of that, people are buying. I'm not. I'm going nowhere near it. If it had been the first time, and I know it's sort of thing, you can be forgiven for it. Second time, you're starting to question. When it comes to the third time, in my opinion, that is an absolute no-go. You do not go back. I am not prepared to risk my reputation and my company. I mean, I have got an absolute small fortune sat up at Koi Wholesale in stock. I'm not prepared to risk that to buy fish from this guy. It's just not worth it. Even if I can't find that variety in other places, I'm just not going to do it. This is where biosecurity starts. Absolutely blank that place. Any other breeder I know is a bit suspect in how they act, whether this is around KHV, anything else, bacterially. This is a big one. You can't watch it. Wife's watching as well. Yeah, she's not seen me for a while now. Not feeling very well either, so I'll be home soon, don't worry. And what's for dinner? That's going to get me a slap as well. I've lost my thread there now. Anyway, the fish are just not worth it. I've got to absolutely know that their practices are clean, they're above board, and they're acting responsibility if I'm going to buy. That's where I'm drawing the line there. If it's a breeder I don't know, I mean, there's a new breeder cropped up in the south at the minute, and I don't know enough about him yet. I don't know his history, the farm's history, any other experiences people have got. So at the minute, keeping a wide berth, just to wait and see, how that goes, how that unravels, learn a bit more about him before I get involved. I'm not just jumping on it so I can be the first to say, oh, I've got a new breeder, and ride the back off of it and think, just to find out 12 or 18 months later, the place is a disaster, and I've, caused a load of people a load of grief and damaged my reputation in the meantime. Just not interested in it. So this is where it absolutely starts with biosecurity. And then we've got to get the fish home. Obviously, when we get the fish home, this is another thing. So traffic on site is a big one. Obviously, any visitor on site is a potential biosecurity risk. This is where, unfortunately, shops need strict practices, asking to people to keep their hands out of the water, stuff like that. I don't have that. I'm fortunate. I have professional people who obviously understand this. They come on site, they follow the practices. They don't just go dipping stuff around everywhere. It's very, very controlled in how we act and what we do. and there's very low traffic on site. You know, there's not many people coming in a week compared to a shop or any other possible premises. So this stuff's really important. When the fish come in, obviously we've got quarantine areas and they become isolated. And this is where then it gets also, because for me, good biosecurity, this is about traceability. And this is a big thing that CFAS have as well. It's about traceability of fish. If something goes wrong, they want us to be able to unpick what's happened. And that's where this comes in. So for me, if there is ever a problem, I need to know, I want to know where the problems come from for a start. And where I believe this starts is in separation of fish. This is massive. It's massive for a load of reasons, because, you know, mixing fish straight away in an environment together as they arrive can cause huge amounts of stress. Sometimes you would say good stress, because if it's something like KHV present, it's going to be a huge stress factor to burst it out. There's other ways of doing that. It's a bit more controlled. So what you can do if it's towside especially is trigger like sleeping disease too soon if it's there. And with the fish being quite weak off the back of a shipment, that's going to cause you no end of problems, you see. So there's a lot to balance with this. But because of the amount of ponds I've got and how we set up, we always separate breeder by breeder on absolutely every batch of fish. And when we do mix, because we do need to mix during quarantine, we do it in a controlled way, so we know what's what, we know what's happening. But then this way, if there's ever a problem, I know exactly where to point the finger, no doubt about it. And from then, as you've probably seen from the first bit, that's not going to be somewhere I'm going back to for a second hit on this. So that is all, in my opinion, massively important. And it's certainly an expectation of CFAS. Their traceability side is important in knowing if there is a problem, where those fish are gone on site and off site as well, so they can track the whole problem throughout. So for me, that is absolutely key. And yeah, then obviously you've got all your basic stuff. You know, when you hear about this, you one net, one bowl per thing. This to me is all the glossy stuff that makes it look like someone really knows what they're doing with biosecurity. I think the depths of it and the true crux are just what I've explained there. It's about knowing what you're doing, and it's about preventing a problem even coming on site. And then if it ever potentially comes on site, it's reducing the spread and risk of it. And that's isolating fish away in quarantine areas. It's doing what I've said, and as much separation as possible, so you can pinpoint a breeder. You've got to remember, some breeders have fish in different facilities, so they could potentially have a problem in one facility and not another. You know, so even at some points, I've been separating fish by batches when they come in as well, not just by breeders. You know, if there's been towside and this side, we don't just ram all them together. They're separated again there. So it's just a mind, because I need to know what's going on, and that is absolutely key. And having your ear to the ground out there, it's just your first line of defense. It's absolutely key. And that's that on the biosecurity side is a big one. And then the last one, which is a huge one, which sort of where all this is prompted from. Traffic. I'm not going to say it's one-way traffic on site in regards to fish movements. The main movement is fish going off. But when fish go off, they never come back on. That is not happening. The only, and to be honest, I probably want, if there was a super biosecure area, you know, that was possibly going to use, we might be doing in future for some events. You know, we're talking, you know, a couple of local sites that don't have anything to do with fish, it'll just be our fish there. That is the very most. But we're talking fish off and touching another foreign body of water and then coming back on. Absolutely no. That just breaks the golden rule of biosecurity there, especially if you knew it was sick fish coming back on site. Regardless of that pond having its own net, its own bowl, whatever it is, trust me, how stuff spreads when there is a problem, you're never going to control it. And that is a massive biosecurity no. The only main movement of fish, or the only real movement of fish on site, is from my trusted suppliers in Japan. And it's the only one that there should be, or you know, in any case, whoever it is, they're trusted suppliers, not just got to be Japan. But yeah, that is key. But to have fish leave, say, to another dealer or another pond and then come back, wow, that just blows my mind that that's even mentioned or a conversation for anybody. So That's my viewpoint on that one. And then the last one I just want to sort of explain, because it's getting banded around and again it's getting drummed into my ear, is about KHV and SVC free status, because there isn't only one place in the world that has this status. There might be different ways and different strictnesses and stringencies in which the testing is done, but let me explain something here right now. Technically, every koi that is allowed to come into the UK is declared by the person exporting it as KHV and SVC free. Otherwise, it wouldn't be allowed into the country. So the Japanese have, let's say, the testing 3 times a year for KHV and SVC free. At that point, the government agency in Japan, the prefectural office of the prefecture that they're in, declares that farm at that time KHV and SVC free. That is the only way that that farm is able to export fish, because when it's all done, we create a health certificate with each of the farms listed on that health certificate that declares the whole consignment is done as KHV and SVC free. And that's the only way those fish get into the country. They're not getting in without it. So it doesn't matter how people want to market it, word it, do it all. That is what it is. There's nothing more to it than that. You can argue around the amount of testing that's done, all that, fair play. That ties back into the whole biosecurity side of it for me. But if you're actually talking about that status, that is the health certificate that has to be signed for them to get in. As far as I know it, from what I've been doing in the countries over the years, and going way back, there's been a few of them. You know, it's not just Japan. I've got a lot of experience across a lot of places, and that's where it is. So you've heard it from me, and yeah, you hear that stuff anywhere else. Take it as you want, but it's not really to be a marketing ploy. That is exactly what it is with that one. So I hope all that makes sense. Something I wanted to give some clarification on, because like I say, everyone will have a different opinion on this. Tying then into a quarantine protocol, again, more and more opinion. That's not what I'm talking about this evening. It's basic biosecurity measures and that whole KHV and SVC thing. So yeah, there we go on that one. So I'm going to dive into some of these questions. Please remember, you know, feel free to pop some in, but I am going to try and focus on these older questions. So first one. A lovely Deutsche Metallic Achiever, sourced through you and bred by Katsumi, but I haven't seen any Katsumi Koi in the UK since 2018. Is he still going? Yes, I believe he's still going. For me, stock, you know, wasn't the best there, but to be honest, in what I've just mentioned, it's one I have some caution around in regards to some of his practices, and that's why I've took the decision not to bring the fish in anymore. Being completely honest about it, that's where that one's at. Does have some amazing fish. It's super tempting when you see him posting, you know, bowls of stuff you're struggling to find anywhere else. But for me, yeah, not worth the risk, to be honest. So that's probably why you're not seeing him, because he's not tied in with you know, multiple shippers in the UK. I think I was one of the only persons sort of bringing him through on and off, but yeah, we just decided with where things are at to stay away from that one. So there we have it. Right, just bear with me. One on here that I think Chris at Elite would be probably better answering. As we're into the colder months, is this a good time of year to use Yugen Immune Food? Not a product I've experienced with. Like I said, I know Chris at Elite has a great deal of experience with that one, so you might want to pop them a message over on their Facebook or something like that if it's something you're interested in. Again, I'll bring it round to the food that I will talk about, Saki Akari, that I use. And I think it goes without saying, obviously, Saki Akari has the benefit of the live bacteria, the Akari germ that is within the food. And it's in their multi-season diet. So if you're feeding that, you're giving strength from within anyway by keeping that gut nice and healthy, which for me is where a lot of value sits. So I have heard good reports on the Yugen stuff from Chris and a lot of his customers. But again, so not used it because for me, knowing the food I'm using is good enough for me, knowing I'm getting the gut health. So they've got the best chance of having the best defenses on there. So there we have it. What route do you take when you fly in Japan? This was obviously must have been before the Japan trip. I've got absolutely no idea. I just got on the plane at Heathrow and got off it at Tokyo Haneda, and that's about as much as I can tell you on that one. Obviously, it wasn't over Russia. I didn't stop anywhere. That was a direct flight from there. That did take a little bit longer because there was others to go round, but it was a very enjoyable flight. Not often been doing direct flights from Heathrow, because typically I would go from Humberside with KLM into Amsterdam and then on from there. But yeah, other than Heathrow Airport, the flight with Japan Airlines was absolutely great, and enjoyed the direct thing a lot. So it looks like I might be doing that for a little while, to be honest with you, because KLM seem to have the old route back on. So we'll wait and see. With the cost of energy this winter, what is the safest but lowest temperature I can heat to? I've always heated, but want to reduce costs without turning off the heat together. I have discussed this before. My optimum, if you are heating, bare minimum would be 8 degrees up to a maximum of 12, and certainly no warmer than 12. If you go in above 12, I consider that you're still at a point where you're raising and conditioning. So I'd want to go 18 degrees or above. The crazy middle band temperatures between sort of 12 and 18 that people keep, absolutely pointless, just wasting money heating at that temperature, because there's nothing to be gained. It's quite a dangerous, as I've said before, dangerous temperature band as well, because the fish's immune system's not at its best. It can be a great sort of temperature band for letting some parasites and stuff thrive. So yeah, stay away from that one, in my honest. So 8 degrees, you will find you'll keep your fish incredibly well active. Little bit of food going in, filter just ticking over nicely. Everything should be absolutely sound at that. So if you haven't done it before at that temperature and you're a bit skeptical, try it, and just trust me, you won't have any issues. And remember, if you do ever have any issues, you've got heating, you can just up it and fix those issues quite easily. So I hope that helps on that one. Quick one, Ricky. Just wondering how many koi YouTubers channels you have clicked on and checked out their pond and koi. Interestingly, I'm spending a little bit more time doing this because I'm curious to see what other content's out there, but more curious to see what other information's out there being passed around and how I can sort of shape what I'm doing. But yeah, I can't say there's anything in particular. I know he's watching, but I do like watching Lee, to be honest with you, the old koi soldier, because yeah, he's a laugh a minute, isn't he, really? I think we all know that. But yeah, other than that, again, I'm a koi nut. I just like watching it. And to be honest, I forgot there, the biggest one I do watch religiously is Yivo, koi partner, because as I've said to him, I think his content is absolutely superb. Although I've been to Japan as many times as I have, even just recently, I've still sat watching his videos that he was recording while we were both there. That's yeah, sad really, but you know, when it's in your blood, you like to get your fix as much as you can. So yeah, highly recommend Yivo's channel. But I think looking by the number of subscribers that he's got, I think it's probably fair to say everyone watching this is probably already a subscriber of his. Anyway, but hats off to what he's doing, and now I know the bloke even more as well. You know, his whole attitude and ethos towards it is superb. So yeah, long may it continue. Let's just drop in and see where we're at on the comments. Yeah, we'll get back to them in a minute. Right, back on the questions. Can I turn UV off over winter? Do I need an aerator on 24/7, or can I just have it running for 12 hours out of every 24? Right, let's break that down. UV, you can turn your UV off at any point. See no issues with that, because most running on the market are just UV clarifiers, not just sterilizers. If you get your pond in a point where you're sterilizing something, again, I'm not a big advocate of. You probably want to be a little bit more careful there about turning it on and off. But for most clarifiers, just addressing water clarity, certainly this time of year with the reduced daylight strength and hours, I see no issue in turning that off. So yeah, get it on. If you see your water starting to haze a little bit, you know, unusually, then, you know, flick it back on and clear it up. But certainly don't need that left on. Save yourself the watts. Happy days. Aerator, do I need it on 24/7? If you get into a certain temperature, my outdoor ponds, as soon as it gets really cold, to be honest, it's a little bit too mild at the minute still, but when we get to proper winter temperatures, I turn all the air pumps off. There's no need for it. And that's even with ponds with quite a high stocking. There's still a bit of water movement from the filter. Oh, we're on, folks. Bloody internet. Yeah. Absolutely no need to have it running. Sorry, you can turn it off. Not a problem. You'll keep, you know, cool water. You're going to keep high saturation there. Not a problem at all. So feel free to get that turned off at the right temperature. And that's when, you know, you can feel it. There's a cold bite in the water. No need for it running. And to be honest with you, all the agitation that it causes, the fish could probably do better without when it's that cold anyway. I think it's your worst actually if you keep turning it on and off, because you'll be well aware, you know, even in your summer months, if you turn your air pump off, the fish knows something's happening. You get that sort of circulating behavior, everything that goes off. Yeah, they like stability, and to have air on, off like that, I don't think that's wise for them. So just if you're off, get it off. But like I say, if you're keeping, to be honest with you, that 8 sort of 12 degrees, I'd possibly just reduce the air down if you can, but possibly still keep it running at that, to be honest. But below that, I think you'd be safe to get it whacked off. So yeah, hope that's helpful. Right. Is it me, or have the top quality end koi got better this year? I've seen some of the most fantastic koi ever. Body shape, skin colours have been stunning. That's an interesting one. Would I say they've got better? Yes. I think certainly you look at the big farms, they're pushing the boundaries year on year. Obviously, koi shows in Japan are a massive thing for reputation of a breeder. They want to win the top prizes. And yeah, so they're all trying, you know, the big guys are constantly trying to improve and outdo each other, because ultimately they want to win the All Japan Koi Show and be the grand champion supplier. So yes, they're at it constantly. And what this means is improved lineages, improved techniques, a higher output of higher quality fish. So you see more of them. Unfortunately, what it doesn't tend to mean is prices ever get any better on the higher end stuff, because they never seem to. There's always so much demand for it. You know, if you think expensive fish and, you know, not regularly purchased, I was at Narita's event this year. So you've got, you know, all the big dogs of the koi world attending generally from all across the world. And it's a lucky draw event. So if you want to get in the draw for a fish, you stick your name on the certificate with a sticky label. So fish, I was going for fish of value, you know, in the thousands of pounds mark. One in particular, a male Ginrin shower from Dainichi, that he had, great koi show piece in the making. I think it had 42 labels on it at the end. I mean, that's just absolutely wild. And this was the same across all fish that were thousands of pounds. There's so much demand for this top stuff. And this is where you've seen all the auction cultures and events come from, because, and these events, like I've just mentioned, these guys have got to try and keep it fair, because they don't want to just be pissing everybody off. So these events, and they come around because it's easier for a breeder, you know, the likes of Sakai, the biggest of them all, just to put them in an event and let people fight it out that way based on what they want to pay, rather than letting somebody have it who then posts it on Facebook, and then 20 of his other customers are read it on his phone going, you know, where's our fish? Why didn't we get that one? And it happens, believe me. I know from being on that side of the fence, you know, breeders have a tough old job. There's some of them actually request, in order to get fish, say, please don't post on Facebook. And you know, if you do, you're not going to get a scoop next time, because all that ends up happening is the minute that agent, breeder, or whoever it is, dealer advertises them fish, their phone gets read up, and they're just getting the hassle that they don't want. So it's just trying to create these fair systems. And this is where you see a lot. I think a lot of people think the auctions have been more about breeders trying to make as much as possible. Don't get me wrong. There's nice benefits to that, because it's how people are valuing fish. But I think in some cases at these biggest farms, if you stood pond side, you're probably going to end up paying a lot more than you would in the auction potentially, because of what the breeder sees in the fish and values it versus what everybody in the auction is seeing and how they're valuing it. So Yeah, they're absolutely getting better all the time because it's just a breeder's drive. It's the absolute passion to keep wanting to do better every year. So I hope that answers that one well enough. Right, let's have a look. This is one folder of these I've nearly cleared out. How do you keep your water parameters so good with your pond stocked heavily? Mine is overstocked a bit and I'm getting a little bit of ammonia and nitrite. Thanks. All I could say is it's just management. Obviously, I've got a lot of experience in managing this kind of environment that not everybody is cut out to do. And I suppose it's where we define and set our parameters as well, to be honest with you. I think I have touched on this a little bit over other times. Ammonia is a no-no. I'm never accepting ammonia. The minute you start, and I'm talking about a basic liquid test here, hitting 0.1 or above, you need to deal with that because it needs to be out of the water. It does a lot of damage in a short space of time, and it can be irreparable damage, to be honest. Nitrite, and this is where, and even with ammonia, where you've got these HANA testers getting a 0.0 something reading, you're never going to get 0.00 reading on ammonia or nitrite. It's just not going to happen. I think even in an empty pond, you might struggle with that one. So it's certainly not going to be a conducive environment for keeping your koi in good condition. Nitrite, again, I think it's been drummed into people's heads. It must be as absolute zero nitrite reading. That's got to be the end goal. But there will be times when I'll start getting traces throughout. But that's when feeding's at its most. But I just manage that environment properly and effectively. So again, I think it's about expectations, but I know that, a slight trace of nitrite isn't going to be killing them fish anytime or do any serious long-term damage. There might be books out there that say it, and this is always the thing of sort of science and books and theories versus real-world application. And my real-world application of 20 odd years, I've seen what fish and what koi can tolerate. I've seen what loads of different types of fish can tolerate in different environments, through trials, through tests, through just seeing it happen. So yeah, but like I said, I'm not going to ever advise people to be keeping, always the way that I would, because I've got a lot of experience in actually managing the pond, as the koi breeders in Japan have as well. I mean, they just don't test water. You'd be lucky a bit of pH, but salt test is the main thing that they're using. It's all done by experience, which again, I'm not saying is the best way. There's probably ways that they could improve a little bit. But yeah, and then if you are struggling to manage it, you've got to look at things. This is where, low nitrite readings can be done in ponds that aren't overstocked because they're getting flow rates wrong, for example. Turnover rates and flow rates and the retention time in systems not being right, so it's not performing properly. KH issues can be heavily linked to nitrite and ammonia spikes, something else you've got to manage. And then if you are heavily stocked, heavily feeding, you might not be turning over enough. Just so much you've got to balance up to get it right. So fingers crossed that answers that one for you. What are the chances of posting koi to France? Yeah, it's something we're constantly looking into other areas. We want to develop into other countries and get access where we can. But honestly, if you saw the workload and how hard everybody at Koi Wholesale and Koi Talk is working on the projects and stuff we've got going on, I'm a bit scared to keep dumping new ones in there like I tend to like to do every so often, because it's all getting a bit too much. And I can see Steve growling in the background here. So yeah, it's always on there, but timescales and stuff, we'll wait and see on that one. Hi Ricky, I'm working in Japan, west of Tokyo. Nice. What would you suggest I do koi-wise during my free time? There's only really one answer. If you want to have a nice sort of weekend at it or something like that, get on the Shinkansen, get yourself to Nagaoka, get a rental car and go driving around Nagaoka, Jia, up in the mountains, and go and have a look. There's no better place to go and just enjoy koi. There's so much of it there to see and look at. You're not going to go wrong. And to be honest with you, even not knowing where you're going, if you just get to an area, there's that many of the farms about, you're going to find some to look at. So and fair play working out in Japan. Why do we see breeders use a wooden handled netting pole over a lightweight aluminium pole? Is it cost or preference? That is an interesting question, because Japanese equipment is my absolute everything. It is the best equipment by an absolute country mile. It's made to last, and that's something koi breeders value a great deal. I value that. You know, the best feeders, Japanese ones, experience has taught me that as well. The best nets, you know, some of these nets are kicking around there in breeders' fish houses for donkey's years, and that's where the wooden handle comes from. I think obviously they don't rust, they're very, very, very robust, last a lifetime if needs be. The quality of the net, the stitching, everything they do, and they get it all right. However, I do agree they are absolutely brutal. Even this time, again, it's been a while since I've got. You pick one up at times, try and drag it through water, and you just think, wow, it's a proper workout. So I admire the quality, but I agree. But to be honest with you, most of the aluminium pole net handles I've seen in my lifetime are poor in the build. They don't take much abuse, let's say. Certainly when I've had them commercially and they're being used a lot, I'm just not a big fan. And you see the difference in the attachment between the Japanese wooden handle ones and them. Even over here, I choose the Norfine hardwood handle ones because, again, they've served me better. And they're pretty lightweight, to be honest, in the water, certainly lighter weight than the Japanese ones. So, but the Japanese ones cost a packet. So it's not a cost. It's nothing to do with cost. It's all preference. And I've never seen aluminium handle ones out there, really, other than if there's potentially been a sample product from some other Asian country that's been taken over there. But yeah, that's where it is, really. Their equipment is the best, the bowls the best, feeders, holding nets, the whole lot is just made to last. And breeders like that, because as much money as some of them make, they don't like spending it when it can be avoided. So yeah, that's my answer on that one. And believe it or not, that has just about gone. Other than I've got one last one here. On the topic of purge drains, do you have to have the same size pipe straight through the drain? Mine runs off a 4-inch pipe, so I'd have to have a 4-inch straight through. You wouldn't, but the thing is, you want to get your maximum purge, and anything down from 4-inch, you're just restricting the power of that purge. So if you've got a 4-inch drain and you restrict it down to 2, you're going to restrict the power and the force of the purge there, probably to the point where it's not going to be as effective. So in the case of the systems I'm going to be building where I'll get the purge, it's going to be a tee off from the 4-inch to a 4-inch valve, and that will be the purge there. Same in Japan where they run the systems. It's a 4-inch straight through because we want the velocity and the power coming through to get it done. Plus, yeah, I would say there. So this is probably looking at a gravity system and pulling off there. So no, I wouldn't advise going any lower, to be honest with you. It could be done. I don't think you get the same effect. So if you're doing it, personally, I'd go 4-inch all the way through there. So, wow, that was a fair few to rip through. Let me just I can have a quick drink actually, and then I'll pull into some of tonight's questions. Before I think while we sort of hit our peak audience at the minute, just want to mention again about the live auctions coming up. So we're starting these next Tuesday from 6:30 p.m. You'll be able to check out the fish on our website and on social media. All of you guys watching can bid and participate. It's just at the end, the transaction will go through one of our dealers. That's the way we're handling it. We'll always stay on that side of the fence. And to be honest, we don't have the resources to be dealing with everyone directly. So relying on them guys to make all this work as well. But got a great diverse range of fish. In fact, while we're at it, I'm going to show you a few of them just so you can get a gist and see how the pictures and everything are laid out as well. So just bear with me a minute. First one up. Absolutely cracking little Tanaka Shiro. I've sort of had stashed away. Really great potential fish that I love. The little Tanaka Shiros are an absolute worldie that I picked out while I was in Japan that I've now sold. But this is going to have some great stuff to come from it with some TLC getting a bit more size on it. The potential sumi pattern there in that one, and the skin quality. It's got a great bone structure. So yeah, really nice piece. You can see we've got stuff starting at £50 starting bids as well. Absolutely quality Deutsch Shiro, that one. I don't really need to say much more. Banging skin pattern. It's got all the lot going on. Then we're stepping it up through that, got some bigger fish. Taniguchi 3-year Sankey, I mean, starting bid there at 200 quid. It's a steal if it went anywhere near that. Wait and see, but great powerhouse there. I mean, look at the body line on that one. Amazing sumi pattern to form up and come from that one. So great piece. And then, yeah, the most sort of prestigious lot for that one coming up. This is a Dainichi fish, not a monster one, to be honest, but it's really been coming on well. It's got the original breeder's certificate with it as well. But yeah, I mean, Dainichi at a starting bid of 200 quid. I mean, wow, you've got an amazing opportunity there to bag a fish. All it needs is a bit of time. As you look through that, you can see the quality of the sumi emerging. Great benny pattern, great structure. So yeah, I hope that gives you a gist of where we're heading with that one. Like I say, you can find the whole lot probably on Facebook and on our website. The guys have been hard at it on that one. It's going to be a work in progress, sort of obviously getting it all through as we're starting. But as everything, you've got to start somewhere. So please join us next Tuesday, 6:30. And yeah, even if you're not in the market, you know, join in, pop the comments in, share the word, and let's see where it all goes with that one. Plus, on our website, if you look at all the media we're putting about, you'll be able to see there's a link to find out how it all works and what's involved as well. And at the start of next week's auction, I will explain that all in a bit more detail as well. So, right, this evening's questions. Let's have a look. Oh, Terry's question there. Even how do we bid enter? Yeah, have a look on the site on that one, buddy, and I'm sure that'll answer all your questions. Let's have a look. Lee, Ricky, are you planning on going back to Japan in December, January to mop up some Tosai that may be released by the breeders after the mad bang history is finished? I mean, yeah, Tosai, mate, I'm already all over it. I mean, we've had the Sakai Hiroshima fishing, got the Dainichi Kohaku in as well. Yeah, I'm on it. I've got my name on no end of stuff already that's scheduled for different shipments. To be honest, we're leaving it till January for certain farms is already a bit too late. So, yeah, at the minute, got my sights set on January for going and sort of finishing that element off, and then, you know, further trips from there will be to go and get some more select bits and just see what's kicking around. You've got to remember, there's never a perfect time in Japan. There's stuff coming all the time as breeders do their different selections. You get new releases of fish, and as it's sort of seen from this time, you know, to get the best deals, best offerings, all the rest, you really have got to be there and be on the ground. So, yeah, let's wait and see. But like I say, nice stuff in the pipeline already. Managed to get our hands on some Taniguchi Golden Corn as well, which is great. Obviously, we've not had them this year after having them last. So the Tosai will be back and available again. So, yeah, you'll no doubt see as and when we've got stuff coming through. So, one here from Steve Watson. So, how can this breeder keep going? Aren't there systems in place to stop him? Obviously, coming back to the first bit, it can keep going. Because, I mean, don't forget, this is the guy's livelihood, and he is now at a point. He's followed the procedures in place by the government, had a wipe out, you know, disinfection, all the rest of it, and had to rebuild and get going and go through the stringent testing program to then be. My concern with that is not that the fish aren't safe right now, but it's why it's happened 3 times and why it keeps happening. That's the bit that's the concern for me, and why I'm taking an absolute wide berth from it. Because for someone who's repeated the same pattern 3 times, I do believe it probably is only a matter of time until there's a 4th, unless he has figured out for what reason it's been reoccurring, that he's had these positive tests. So, yeah, it's a double-edged sword, that one, Steve. But this is, again, it's our responsibility. It's my responsibility to make these decisions. And others, if they're choosing to go and buy them, that's on them. But obviously, when it all goes wrong, if it goes wrong, they can't come crying. So, yeah, there we go. Do you test fish when coming in as in dissection? Yeah, testing is a big part of the quarantine regime. Nowadays, they don't have to be dissected. They can just be done with a gill snip and sent off. But typically, ours were going up to a lab in Scotland where we were just sending the fish up. Smaller ones, especially bigger ones, obviously we don't want to destroy. So the gill snip's better, but the PCR testing Yeah, it was brain, kidney, and gill, I think it was, being sampled. So yes, essential. You know, the testing for me is a big part of all this as absolute prevention. What size backy shower filter would I need for a 12,000 litre pond? Right, my first question with there is this a primary filter or a secondary one? If it's a secondary one, it doesn't matter. If it's a primary one, given where everything is at right now, I wouldn't advise having a shower as your primary filter. I'm still, ultimate setup for me is to have a mix of submerged and above ground filtration, because you get different performances, there's different benefits to both. But I will always have the core system being submerged filters and ideally a fluid bed on every pond. That's what I want. I've got ones that operate with the trickle towers only, but if I could, I would get submerged filtration on them. But my main ponds, the growing ponds, the main systems all run that, and then showers are added as an added benefit. However, I've been through the very unfortunate renewal of my electricity contracts last week, which upset me in a big way. And a quick calculation on the new rates. So the big Profi drum showers that I'm running on the VaryFlow 30,000 pumps on my new electricity contract, I believe are costing me, as I calculated, about £210 a month to run a single one flat out. That is a considerable sum of money, and that is not an essential either. You know, that's a big decision for me. I got to know commercially that pond is earning the money to warrant running that shower. If it's not, it'll be turned off. Let me tell you that for sure. So I certainly wouldn't be choosing to have it as my main system, because I think it's the absolute least efficient way to run a koi pond. And looking at the pumps you use, you know, the main filter pump on there is an Aquamax Eco 8,500, which runs for peanuts. You know, I think it's probably the case that whole fish house, there's main systems, probably runs for around the same, if not only a little bit more than what one of those shower pumps is running at. So, and we all know to get the best out of the showers, you want a good flow rate going over them. So with times as they are, I'm saying it now, they're not, unless it is your main biological filter, they're not an essential piece of equipment. If you're building a new pond, I'd always advise having a submerged system anyway. But yeah, you know, probably look at sticking to that and really question, do you need a shower? Not just because it's trendy or fashionable to have one. Do you actually really need it? I would probably say in most cases, probably not. So yeah, there we have it. I hope that helps. Shirley, good evening, Shirley. What is the main cause of short raise in dorsal fins? Seems to be on the increase. As with pec fins, it's all just the handling of the fish. Obviously, it's hard. Believe me, the things, even when you're taking the most amount of care, before you know it, there's a snag somewhere, and they're absolutely devastating. But the Japanese don't seem to mind it as much as we do. And don't get me wrong, it's horrible. Some breeders, especially with the pec one does drive me crazy. I'm having to soften on it a little bit, because certainly as I'm seeing, you know, fish taking major awards where you can see it's had that kind of front ray pec damage, it comes to a point where if you are too fussy with absolutely everything, you're going to be missing out on the fish that can do the business in Japan. So for me, it's been an adjustment, because it really is a pet. It does right under my seat, and some of it that just is not acceptable, and I won't accept. But then there's elements of it where you just think, looking for that absolute perfection. You know, good fish, the really good ones are hard enough to find anyway at sensible budgets. And then when you start, say, chipping off the whole criteria of you want it from this farm, you want it from, you want it to be, you know, this kind of sizes and this size, you want this kind of pattern, you want it to be female, and then you want to make sure it's absolute perfection everywhere. You puddle of fish shrinks down to this, and those ones in that puddle are an absolute fortune. So even for me, that's had to be an adjustment. Like I say, it's not my favorite thing. In the dorsal, I don't really mind it so much, but I've seen it myself. You know, the minute the ponds are a bit heavily stocked, it can happen just from the feeding, the way they sort of swirl around the top when they're all happy and going for it. It is annoying and tedious, but yeah, ultimately it's not stopping fish in Japan winning top awards. So I think that's something we've all got to bear in mind with that one. And please bear in mind what I've just said, that the harder, the more obsessive you are about these things, the harder it's going to be to find fish, because yeah, like I say, at some farms, every other fish you see in it, and it does drive me potty, but there we go. Right, let's have a look. Size world of koi. Is it too late in the year to start using new ceramic media in a new bucket shower? I'm not heated and was going to wait until spring next year. So if this is an established pond, it's not just a main system, I see no issue in getting that up and running. It will start to establish some form of biological activity in there. Biofilm will start forming. It'll be slow, don't get me wrong. I don't see there being any issue there in the slightest. I'm presuming, I haven't got the information, if it's a whole new pond, starting up a new pond this time of year and putting fish into it, especially when it's cold, is dangerous, because the issue is the parameters will spike at some point, and when it's cold, that spike's going to be a lot more prolonged because the bacteria can't colonize as quickly. And you're going to be in an element there where the fish's immune system is not great. It's fighting against all the other parts of new pond syndrome, and then also fighting against bad parameters. So if it's a new pond, I'd say be careful with that one, unless you've got heating, which you're saying you haven't. But if it's just an additional system, I see no harm in that. Get it on, and you'll already be in a better position come spring than you would be just starting it in spring. So that's what I would go with on that one. Christ, I can't believe we've chewed 56 minutes up on that one. Crikey. So what I'm going to do, I'll let Steve, just one there I've seen actually which ties in. Obsessive is the appropriate word to describe me. I wouldn't say it like that, surely. What are the traits of Taniguchi koi, and what bloodline is Kohaku? So the bloodline, he's used a lot of Sakai blood in the past. Traits: fast growing, powerful bodies, great patterns, great skin, everything you want in them, really. He ticks all the boxes. I think the biggest thing to know about Taniguchi, and this is why I love the place so much, having got to know him and seen what he's done, he's got an incredible eye for parent fish and a great understanding of koi in general. I think that's proved it to do what he's done in producing golden corn, because he's had to create parent fish from the ground up. He had nothing just to go out and get. He's had to do all that. And for someone to do that and stabilize the most unstable traiting koi I've ever known, hats off to him. So then something like Kohaku and Sankey, I mean, he's going to do it in his sleep, really. But he invests heavily in his parent fish from great lines, and he has some absolute bangers. Some of the stuff and fish he's shown me, we're talking, all Japan winners, things like that. He spends the money on them. He knows what he's looking at. He understands bloodlines and gets a great mix. So, but like I say, there's been a lot of Sakai in there in the foundation, but breeders are constantly tinkering, evolving and all the rest, but there's been a lot of it there. But yeah, trait-wise, like I say, you get growth, skin quality superb, everything about them. It's why I rave about it. The fish deliver, but on the big one, which is what gets me with this, it's what you get in the pattern. I've been raving a lot about this just recently. And, where I'm saying, on the smaller budgets, you might have to compromise on pattern. Taniguchi manages to seem to deliver it all at reasonable budgets. If we look at those, the fish for the event, just get the video on again. So bearing in mind, these are going to be priced between $495 and $595 in the event, including the growing. That is a phenomenal amount of fish there for that price, that you're getting skin, you're getting pattern, you're getting a quality breeder with quality bloodlines. And then the patterns they've got, just look at the patterns of them. They're absolutely insane. All the elements that most people want and are crying out for, and it's all bundled in for that kind of money. That's why I rate this farm so much. This just can't be done at that many other places at these price points. Don't get me wrong, other places have these fish, but delivering it all in at the price point, that's what I love. Taniguchi is incredibly fair with that stuff, and his whole growing principle, like I say, they'll be grown through till spring in the jumbo tosai at that point, and some that make it through to Nisai. You're looking at that stage, what you'll have paid for it, just thinking you physically cannot go anywhere else and replicate getting that end fish you've got for the price you initially paid for it. So like I say, not all perfect as with any koi, but yeah, this event's going to go down a storm. And yeah, I think this is a farm I'm just going to keep drumming into people, because for where everything's at, I believe it's one of the best pound for pound, best value for money farms out there, especially for Go Sankey and what everybody's looking for in Go Sankey as well. So yes, just bear with me. I've just seen another one there that might be interesting. Oh, here we go. I'm just going to answer this last one from Nick. So I've been watching a lot of YouTube footage of breeders in Japan with their recent harvest. I've noticed a lot of koi clamped up at the bottom of the pond. I'm interested to know, do the breeders use the same chemicals we do to treat parasites? In general, yes, they do. There's a few that we don't use that we can't actually get in the UK and Europe generally. They use dosages probably a lot stronger than what we do. But I think the things you're referring to there is they operate in a very different way. During the summer, most of them completely strip out the ponds, jet wash everything down. Some are repainted because a lot of them don't use fiberglass. It's just paint, repainted systems, everything disinfected, cleaned down, and then they only fire them back up just before the harvest. So there's this constant thing after every harvest. It was actually up at Hiroi this year. I saw it. Even I walked in and thought, you need to do this differently, because people don't want to look at fish that were basically swimming around in very high levels of ammonia, and they look shit. They look terrible. And unless you can see through that and know, well, that's going to come good, that'll settle down by the time I'm shipping. If we're, as a lot of people, when you're walking into a dealer's, you're not compensating and looking at all this stuff. So and you won't accept it. And I don't think it's great, to be honest with you, to expose them to all that. But it's what they do. It's the way they've always done it. And yeah, that's where you're seeing that. Some fish harvested, obviously, they've just come out of big mud ponds with loads and loads of space, all the rest of it, and then dumped into a concrete pond. They're adjusting to their environment. They look unhappy. A lot of those fish then are not fed for quite prolonged periods of time because there's a lot of netting, catching going on every day, fish being prepared for shipment. It's just so much commercially you have to bear in mind and make adaptations to, that sometimes that's why they behave like that. Sometimes they're sitting down, they're not actually ill. It could just be they're adapting to their environment. They're even hungry. It's energy conservation, especially in bigger fish as well, where you tend to see that a little bit more. So yeah, a lot going on, but chemical wise, some the same, some not. And in general, I hope that answers why you're possibly seeing the fish like that as well. So, right, koi appreciation. Let's get finished off on this one. And here we go. Golden corn lovers, haters, whatever you are out there. I think you'll probably enjoy this one anyway, because we all love seeing how them koi change. So this is one. Just wait for that comment to go off the screen. This is one I purchased as a Tosai. Really liked it. I've been quite into the more sort of yellow type and bits of patterns on them. Obviously not seen it prior to this, so didn't see how the colour had been coming up or anything like that. But really like the bone structure. That's been a great thing with the golden corn, sort of as we have seen with them. So good growers as well, typically. So I liked all those elements to it. And then, basically with these, who knows what's going to happen. This was still from the first year he released them commercially. So again, I'd not really learned what was going on. I had my ones in the UK. This was a higher end piece to see what sort of happened and what played out. So I've not got any of the Nisai content to hand, but it did end up being a male fish, still showing superior and really superior, great body, in fact. But yeah, the transformation as it came. So at Taniguchi this time, managed to get to see it. And excuse the video a bit, the fish is jarring at very weird angles because of the anesthetic that was in the bowl. But yeah, here we go. We went from this to Tosai to now this at Sansai. And it's a radical. We can see how that Kanoko, this is the fascinating stuff. And if you want to get more of a gist on Kanoko and what it's all about, I've actually just written a piece. I'm not sure which issue it's in for Koi Talk magazine about the whole golden corn thing in Kanoko. But see that red Kanoko coming out of nowhere. I mean, it just didn't look present. And all of a sudden, I mean, I just find him so interesting to look at. Still don't fully know where that one is heading. And yeah, I mean, absolute beast. But just look at that change from that Tosai into that. and see where it heads and goes from here. But as you can see, even as a male, I mean, the body's an absolute beast. It's a tank of a fish, grown really well, and just super interesting. For those that are more into the Kawari Goi and something different in the pond, these are great. But even liking the pattern that they are, even if you're looking at varieties like Chagoi or Karashigoi, thinking I'm a bit bored of them, these things have got mega growth potential, and they're going to be quite suited to be in that kind of fish in your pond as well, to be honest. But yeah, the element of that red Kanoko, as I say, absolutely great. But thought it'd just be nice to share that and how that has progressed, because it was really hard to see it even coming there. I wasn't 100% expecting it, because what's sort of tending to happen on the ones I've seen is we're getting more the Kanoko sort of separating in the scales. But let's say the Kanoko just developed in the scale with this that he's done. And trust me, regardless of what you think about him, the way the guy has managed to stabilize that as a characteristic is absolutely admirable and insane, and an insane level of skill showed there as well, to be honest. So yes, there we have it, folks. That's quite a jam-packed hour and 6 minutes from what I can see. So auction next week, Tuesday, 6:30. Please tune in. And like I say, you can find out more. Have a look on our social media website. You'll get to see the fish and what it's all about and how you can participate. And then, yeah, one last look for you. The binders, if you've ordered them, we're going to be getting these all out, distributed starting next week. So a little bit ahead of schedule on that one. They do look absolutely class. Stunning bit of, koi kit there for anybody who's into it. And yeah, enjoy. More details, look out on Friday. Like I say, another video on the Taniguchi grow out coming, and December 1st is what's penciled in at the minute for actually launching the purchasing of the event. As ever, thank you for everyone who has tuned in. Really enjoyed it tonight. Let's say questions from this week we will log up, and I'm going to make the same effort next week to work through some of the other backlog as well. So enjoy the rest of your evening, enjoy the rest of your week, and I'll catch you next week. Thanks again.